Tonight, new legislation to decolonize Puerto Rico sparking debate in Washington and on the island.
No sé si Puerto Rico puede salir a flote solo.
Puerto Rico tiene todo lo que todos los demás países quieren.
Last week, House Democrats unveiled a breakthrough new draft proposal of the Puerto Rico Status Act.
The Puerto Rican people do not want to be a colony.
If the legislation is passed, Puerto Ricans would choose in a vote between statehood, independence, or sovereignty with free association. The island's current territorial status not an option.
We should honor a decolonization process.
We asked Puerto Ricans what they think is best.
Si Puerto Rico se independiza, sería horrible la situación. Nosotros no queremos ser como un Cuba, un Venezuela.
Congress has never really addressed this issue before in the last 124 years.
Raúl Bartolomé, an assistant professor at the University of Puerto Rico in San Juan, tells me he's pro-independence, and there was a time when he had to hide it.
Authorities here used to like in the pro-independence movement with pro-communist parties.
But he says that's changed. The Puerto Rican Independence Party won nearly 14% of the vote in the 2020 gubernatorial election, compared to 2% in 2016.
There's a younger cohort that's much more active than before.
We've been told by our parents and grandparents that we can't do it because we don't have the resources. Sadly, what we've been seeing is that people prefer not to put their work in their island, but yet they go to the mainland and they have 2 jobs.
In 2020, 52% of Puerto Ricans voted for statehood, the latest in a string of similar votes over the past decade, but none of them binding.
Most Puerto Ricans have an opinion on the political status of the island, but many of them tell me that's not their biggest concern right now.
Emprender un negocio primeramente conlleva mucho sacrificio porque la economía no está muy buena.
The economy is a big issue for Boricuas like Rosa Andújar, who tells me she relies on her outdoor restaurant here in San Juan's Santurce neighborhood to provide for her 2 sons.
Una empanadilla. Los clientes se vienen quejando por el alta de los costos.
If Puerto Rico were a state, it would be the poorest in the nation. Median household income is less than half of that of the poorest states, at only $21,000 a year. But some say better times are ahead for the island's economy.
Another crypto boom is happening south of Miami in Puerto Rico.
The island has become a tax haven for the wealthy.
You've had a huge influx of people that in some cases are taking advantage of the tax incentives that the island has provided to obviously promote economic growth.
At the same time, Puerto Rico's population declined nearly 12% between 2010 and 2020. Some tell me a lack of opportunities and everyday comforts on the island are pushing them out.
Tengo en perspectiva en el momento que me retire irme a los Estados Unidos.
Me gustaría en algún momento irme allá. Sé que es mejor la economía.
All right, Isa Gutiérrez now back in New York joins us from the Top Story studio. So, Isa, what needs to happen for Puerto Ricans to get even more rights to becoming a state? How exactly would that happen?
So, Tom, in order for this binding vote to happen, this bill presented last week has to get support from the Senate first. It's unclear at this moment whether or not that will happen, but the GOP in the past have rejected the idea of Puerto Rico becoming a state.
And Isa, I know so many people there are worried about the power issue. It has been a huge factor since Hurricane Maria, and now the hurricane season's about to start right up again.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. I mean, there are constant outages in Puerto Rico. Many people there tell me that this is a major stressor for them. Just last month, over 1 million people lost power on the island after a fire at a main power plant there. So while Puerto Ricans may get the chance to vote on the island's political status, many of them are literally just trying to keep the lights on. We're going to stay on that story.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.